to get moving
Moving
in the morning.
All right, we're turning to virtual workouts because we really don't have a choice, right? Unless you're a jogger and you like to go outside for a bit, some people don't feel comfortable. So right now, we're going to avoid those injuries since we are working out from home. Maybe we're not wearing the proper foot gear like myself.
I was telling you about this, of course, right? So we've got to address these common injuries from that award-winning chiropractor and personal injury expert. Dr. Nekesa Remy is joining us this morning. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, paging Dr. Remy.
Good morning.
It's so good to have you here. So talk to us. Have you noticed, like, are you getting calls regarding a lot more injuries at home?
Absolutely. And probably the number one injury, bumps and bruises, believe it or not.
I've got
so
some.
there are a few things that we can do to help prevent that.
Okay, so
let's
you
do
take
that.
us through it today, yeah.
So I will start with footwear. And yes, Dina, I would not recommend working out in those shoes. I
My
do
socks.
recommend running shoes.
Yeah, these are just little ankle socks
They're
there,
ankle
Doctor.
socks. I maybe did a
Okay.
little. I had a sprain in October and I had a cane and a bandage. Well, I irritated it trying to do basketball in socks.
We did some basketball drills on Friday.
Don't recommend it.
And
Yes.
yeah, no
recommend
shoes.
A
Yeah.
little bit of a.
Well,
I brought ball shoes in that day, not even the loafers.
It was angry at me.
I promise I'm not going to judge your shoes, but I will say ankle sprains, number one injury, number one injury for at-home workouts. So when you are working out, you want a running shoe that has two things. One, arch support. So if I work from the front to the back of the shoe, this little white cushion here should increase in width as I move from the front to the back.
Okay.
That tells me that there's good arch support to help prevent those ankle sprains. The other thing you want to look at is the cushioning in the heel. So again, I'm looking at this white piece here. And if you look at the shoe on the right, the orange shoe, you can see it's got thicker support, right? So that means more cushioning, more shock absorption, less pain.
Okay, good tips.
Very good.
Now, moving on to mats. Mats, believe it or not, are very important. So I see you've got a mat there, which is great. And I'm going to pull out two mats myself.
Okay.
So it really depends on the workout that you're doing. So the mat that you guys have there looks like this one here. It's a very thin mat.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you rub your fingers, it's got like ridges and grooves and things like that.
Yep, for sure.
Yes, that is a perfect mat for if you're doing like high intensity workouts where you may be stepping or jumping over the mat. That's the perfect mat to use. Now, for those of us who maybe have arthritis or maybe doing more activity where you're just on the floor, look at this mat here. You can see it's a lot thicker in its width. And when I squeeze it, you can see it leaves little imprints.
Oh, yeah.
That's a cushioned mat. So if I'm doing a workout where I'm going to be on the floor the entire time, this is a great mat because it will support my bones, my joints a little bit more than the hard, rigid mat.
Makes sense.
Okay.
All right. So the other thing that's really important is low back. We have to protect our low back when we work out. And the reason being is how many of us are sitting 4, 5, 6, 8 hours a day, and that causes a lot of weakness and tightness in the back. So there's two things that we're going to do to help improve our low back.
Okay.
The first thing is to teach you guys how to bend properly.
Oh, I definitely do this wrong. Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
If I were to ask you to bend and just touch your toes, a lot of people are bending from the low back. Now, if you look at my back here, you'll see
I would
it's
do
rounded.
this because I'm not flexible.
Yeah.
I'm cheating. Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that a little later. But if we bend, we'll look to see that our back is rounded. Not good. Oh, yeah, Steve. Yeah, that's not good. I'm looking at your back.
Okay.
How's this, Doc?
What I want to do? Flexible, but again, there's a little too much bend in the back. So I'm going to show you a way to bend from your hips that will keep your back flat.
Okay.
Now, what you to do here is you're going to push your hips back first, okay? I always say for ladies, it's almost like if we're using a public bathroom, we don't want to quite sit on the toilet.
Okay.
We're kind of squatting a bit. And then once our hips are back, then we bend down. So now our back is flatter. Yeah.
Oh, that's good, Dee. I see the difference.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So you're protecting your low back by bending like that. So if you're picking up a weight or doing like a deadlift exercise, make sure you're bending from your hips first and then through the low back.
What about your knees? Do you have a slight bend on your knees?
Always have a slight bend in the knee to allow for shock absorption and to decrease the amount of pressure going through the knees, the hips, and ultimately the low back. Great question.
Okay.
Now, the other thing we want to do is stretch out the front of our hips. So again, because we're sitting for long periods, this muscle in the front here gets very tight. So to stretch, we're going to go into what's called a runner's lunge, okay? So we're in a lunged position here. I'm going to stretch out my left hip. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hip, thrust it forward, and I should feel a nice pull going up the front of my leg. That stretches your hip flexor muscle, which when it's tight will pull on the low back. So after any workout that you do, always stretch the hip flexor. Perfect, guys.
This is very Elvis Presley.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm all
Thank you
shook
very
up.
much. Yeah. This is weird now.
Okay.
I'm gonna do that
Sorry.
anymore. Yeah.
It just got weird.
I need to get the other one. That was
See, it was
good.
perfectly fine. We made it weird.
Yeah.
Yes, balance it out, Dee.
Balance it. Balance.
Right. Yeah,
Nice.
very important to stay balanced. And then the last thing is kind of adding on to the stretching that you guys are doing is it's important to do the right type of stretch at the right time during your workout. So before you work out, you want to do what's called dynamic stretching. So that's stretching that's going to get your heart rate up, get you moving, and get your body ready for exercise. So I'm just going to grab a little weight. You can grab a water bottle. If you're at home, a shampoo bottle, whatever you got. And we're just going to hold it in here. And then what I'm going to have you do, take a step forward. You're going to go into a lunge, and then we're rotating one side to the other. And then you would come up, we switch legs, rotate one side to the other and back. You do 10 of these on each leg. You are warming up your legs. You're warming up your hips, your low back. You're pretty much warming up 80% of your body just by doing this exercise.
You mean this isn't the workout? I thought this was the workout.
This is getting you ready to work out.
All right, if you say so, Doc. This was great. Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead. Get in that last one.
Yeah, please do.
Get it.
Stretch, a nice static stretch. Child's pose, my favorite stretch to do after a workout. But if you're standing, just grab a chair. And you're leaning forward. Yes, and you should feel that through the back, the shoulders, the hamstrings, and you would hold this a good 20 seconds. I say every workout should end with a nice low back stretch.
That goes right down the back of the legs, like right down to the heels.
And if your family's coming down right now asking what you're doing, just don't even answer. Just tell them you're working on your health, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Doctor, where can we get more information about all of this and you?
You can head to the chiropracticoffice.ca.
Now, what happens if I can't get out of this position, Doc?
Then you definitely need to. Yeah,
I need to call you. Okay.
Definitely need to call the doctor.
We'll be back with more BT. How are you going to salvage summer? Live on the line. We hope to talk to you right after this.
Yeah,
Thanks,
speaking
Doc.
of calls, please give us a
nice.
call, 1-866-267-3.